Hello, everyone. My name is Jeanette Southwood. My pronouns are she, her, elle. I am the Executive Vice President, Corporate Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at Engineers Canada. It brings me great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Engineering Licensure Unlocked, Your Gateway to Possibility. As part of our commitment to incorporating Indigenous ways of being and ways of knowing into the engineering profession, I would like to begin today's webinar by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of global Indigenous peoples and their cultures. I myself am a settler on these lands. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the effect of residential schools and colonialism on Indigenous families and communities, and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. On behalf of Engineers Canada, I want to thank you for joining us for this webinar today. Engineers Canada is the national association of the 12 provincial and territorial engineering regulators who regulate the practice of engineering in Canada and who license Canada's more than 330,000 engineers. Licensure is an important part of being an engineer. It means that engineers are held to high technical and ethical standards, and they are accountable for their work. While specific requirements for licensure vary by regulator, generally, there are 5 criteria that must be satisfied: academics, work experience, professionalism and ethics, good character, and language. One of my proudest moments as an engineer was when I earned my P.Eng. It's more than a milestone. It's a launchpad. It opens doors as you progress through your career. Yet many engineering graduates hesitate because of myths they've heard about licensure. For example, that they may not need a license in their discipline, or that it's too expensive, or maybe they find the process daunting. Today, our panelists will bring both sides of this conversation together. They'll debunk myths, and they'll give you their firsthand accounts of the ways in which earning their engineering license has advanced their careers. We'll hear from our moderator, Emma Sanderson, and from our panelists, Aderonke Dahunsi, Valer Eugen Demian, and Gavin Simone, will share their insights and perspectives from their engineering journeys. This webinar is part of our Pathway to Engineering Exchanges webinar series, featuring conversations about the engineering profession, the licensure process, and more. Pathway to Engineering is part of the work laid out in Engineers Canada's strategic plan to realize a fuller awareness of engineers' contributions to society and encourage engineering licensure. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to explore the pathwaytoengineering.ca website to learn more about licensure and to subscribe to our email alerts so that you can get news about future webinars right in your inbox. You will see a link to the website in the chat. And be sure to enter your name into the draw to receive one of 2 licensure support scholarships. You would have seen the entry form in the reminder email about this webinar, and we'll add the link to the chat. You could win a national professional practice exam prep course or a competency-based assessment support course. We'll contact the winners by email after this webinar. With that, I'll turn it over to Emma, who is a new graduate from environmental engineering at the University of Guelph. Emma just finished up her term also as the president of the Canadian Federation of Engineering Students, The Canadian Federation of Engineering Students is a long-standing and valued strategic partner of Engineers Canada and represents more than 80,000 students across Canada. You are all welcome to drop questions into the Q&A box on Zoom throughout today's discussion, and the panelists will answer as many as possible during a Q&A session in the last 10 minutes of today's webinar. So thank you once again for being here. Let's get started. And Emma, over to you.
All right, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Before we begin with the panel discussion, how about we start with a quick round of introductions, including a fun fact about each of our panelists today. So Gavin, I'll pass it over to you to begin.
Thank you, Emma. My name is Gavin Simone, and I help engineers with the licensing process. So I run a company called Practice PP Exams, and we help about 4,000 EITs navigate the licensing steps in Canada. And I've been doing that since about 2012, and we've helped about 25,000 EITs. And a fun fact about myself is I like to play guitar, and I like not only the sounds that come out, but I'm also fascinated by the physics of the guitar and the vibrations and just how noise is created and stuff like that. So that's it.
Awesome. Aderonke, do we want to go next?
Yeah. Good day, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Aderonke Dahunsi. I'm a power system engineer working in resource planning department at Enel Hydro. I recently completed my engineering licensure journey, and I'm excited to share my experience today. A fun fact about me is that my engineering journey has taken me from over 18 years in Nigerian power sector to now working in Canada. And it has been interesting to see how engineering standard may differ, but the goal remains the same everywhere, which is delivering safe and reliable power to people. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And Eugen, go ahead.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Valer Eugen Demian. I'm a professional engineer from Vancouver, British Columbia. I have an international degree in mechanical engineering, over 30 years of engineering experience in multiple roles, including drafter, designer, project manager, and engineer. I have achieved 2 major professional milestones by obtaining my PMP certification in 2016 and P.Eng designation in 2023. A fun fact about myself is that I also hold an international chess master. I've been coaching kids and juniors for many years. My students won the Canadian National Championship and once the North American Championship. I've been playing chess since grade 4, and even today I spend at least an hour a day doing that.
Thank you. And as Jeanette mentioned, my name is Emma. I am a recent graduate of the environmental engineering program at the University of Guelph. And I am the outgoing president of the Canadian Federation of Engineering Students. So my fun fact is that my student leadership journey has taken me to nearly every province in Canada so far. It's been a great way to get involved, and it's brought me here. So to start us off, our first question today, I'll ask the panelists, what motivated each of you to pursue your engineering license? And how did you find that you were ready to apply?
Sure, I can start with that one. So I was, at the time I was working for a project management company that did owner representative project management on different construction projects across Ontario and in Ottawa. And it was a requirement by the company if you were an engineering grad to get your P.Eng, and if you could get your PMP and your lead AP as well. So they wanted to have those 3 specific designations to give the client confidence that we had the right people to manage these projects. And when did I know that I was ready? At the time, back in 2013, you had to wait until you had 2 years of experience to start the licensing process and write your NPPE. So I did that as soon as I could, and then I started submitting my experience after the 4-year mark. Now things have changed a little bit, and in Ontario, you can get started right after graduation. You can write your NPPE, and the process is a little bit quicker now. But back then, it was sort of, you have to wait for different milestones in the process.
Awesome. Thanks, Gavin. It's good to keep that top of mind, that the application process or the beginning of that can vary by location. So going into our next question, we've talked a lot about how there are misconceptions about engineering licensure. And we have gathered a few topics that are kind of common that we hear of going into this profession. So we wanted to go through and ask you to bust these myths and tell us whether they are fact or whether they are myths. So the first one we have here is that I can call myself an engineer after I've graduated from an engineering degree program.
So I'll take this one. So essentially, in the different provinces, they've all protected the engineering title. So unless you're a licensed engineer, you can't, or you shouldn't call yourself an engineer. Otherwise, you can get in trouble by the provincial regulator. So instead of being, a mechanical engineer, your company might want to relabel that as mechanical designer or junior designer or something that doesn't let the public or others believe that you are a licensed member. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule in Alberta. In 2023, they changed the rules around software engineers. So you could call yourself a software engineer if you're in Alberta. It's been softened a little bit that way, but you still can't sort of provide engineering software services to the public if you're not licensed. So there's some nuances there. But in general, you shouldn't be using the engineering title or calling yourself an engineer if you're not a licensed engineer. If you've completed your degree, you're an engineering graduate, and then you have to wait until you go through the licensing process and get the license before you're officially an engineer.
Thanks, Gavin. I'll make sure to keep an eye out for that as I begin my job search. Our next myth that we have here is that getting your license is only important for those who are stamping drawings.
Oh, I can take that one if I may. I'm hearing this very often, especially from the interns that come and work with us at Whitewater. It is just a small part of what a professional engineer is doing. A professional engineer is actually responsible for the whole engineering deliverance package, be it for a task or for the project. It doesn't matter how small or how big they are. So stamping is a very small part of it.
Thank you, Eugen. Our third myth is that because my employer doesn't require me to get my P.Eng license, it's not relevant to me.
Okay, I can take that. Even if your current role doesn't require a P.Eng, it still matters because licensure keeps doors open. It gives you the flexibility for career growth, leadership opportunities, and mobility across provinces and internationally. And I've seen this firsthand. Remember when I was being considered for my current role, I was asked about my P.Eng status. And because I'd already started the process, I was able to meet the timeline to provide proof. So that experience showed me that being proactive about licensure can make a real difference when opportunity comes up.
Excellent. Yeah, something to keep in your back pocket, and you never know when it may come in handy, right? Next, the cost of licensure is not worth the benefit.
I can take that also. They say the cost isn't worth the benefit, but licensure is an investment in your career. And the benefit in terms of credibility, career growth, and professional mobility, they far outweigh the cost. Many employers also provide support. And from my own experience, I learned a lot during my licensure process. I've been able to apply many of those lessons directly in my work, and beyond obtaining a certificate, this process has also helped me build a deeper understanding of professional and ethical principles that strengthen me as an engineer. So I'm happy I paid for the certificate. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, it's good to know that you had the support to do so as well. Lovely. And then lastly, getting my P.Eng license increases my legal liability.
I can take this one. Yes, in a way it does. However, that comes into play only if there is a negative outcome based on the decisions you make. I would suggest not to decide what you do based on something like this and look to the positive side of it. Of course, our duty is to the safety of the public, and we do to the best of our abilities to make sure this safety happens in everything we do. So I would say don't sweat it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And
That's been very helpful. Oh, go ahead, Gavin. Yes.
Yeah, if there's something I can add to that, it's just that, yeah, like you can like there's a risk in anything, and it's important that as long as you follow current codes and standards, and you're doing proper due diligence, you're going to minimize risk. But we can't eliminate risk, and that's what insurance is for. So there are, insurance providers that insure engineering companies, and they're taking the rest of that risk off of you. So there's never going to be zero risk in anything that you do. So just know that there's, insurance providers, and there are ways to mitigate your risk following, accepted standards and laws and codes and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for the insight. That's very helpful. Digging more into the value of licensure, what kind of benefits do you think that having your engineering license has brought you, and what doors has it opened for you as professionals?
I can take that first. To me, the greater benefit licensure has brought to me is enhanced professional credibility and confidence. It has shown that I've met a recognized standard of technical competency, professionalism, and ethical responsibility, which build trust in my work. And having worked in Nigeria and now practicing in Canada, I've seen how licensure support mobility. As an internationally trained engineer, I was able to build on my own power registration. My validators were current certified engineers, which helped demonstrate that my experience. And it also shows that internationally trained engineers don't have to start from scratch, and licensure provide a pathway to translate existing expertise. And it has also been clear in my career opportunity. For example, I said earlier that I've been considered for my current role because of my progress towards licensure. It allows me to meet the requirement within timelines, which has reinforced my readiness for the role. So overall, licensure has opened doors for me career-wise, and it has strengthened my professional identity and positioned me for both technical and leadership opportunities.
Thanks for sharing. It's really neat to hear how that's translated for you as you've kind of come along in your career here.
If I can add to that, I think there's kind of two main benefits. I think the first one is mobility across Canada. So if you're licensed in one jurisdiction, it's relatively easy to get licensed in another province, or if you're relocating with your family, it's not much of a barrier to say, okay, I'm an engineer here, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna get licensed in this province as well. So mobility is great, not only within Canada. There's also mutually recognized agreements with other countries as well. So it's easy to transport your license to certain other countries, which makes it great if you have to relocate for whatever reason. And then the other reason why I think a lot of people pursue it, well, there's the status and the prestige of being a professional, just like a lawyer or a doctor, which is important. And there's, you know, everyone probably has family members that are engineers, and it's nice to be it's nice to have that connection. But there's also like the financial benefit. So National Society of Professional Engineers did a study a few years back, and they found that a licensed engineer makes 5% more than their unlicensed counterpart. And Ontario Society of Professional Engineers did a similar study, and they found 7 to 14% more than their unlicensed counterparts. So the investment that people going through this process is manyfold. It's not just financial. It's not just mobility. There's lots of different aspects to it.
Thanks for sharing, Gavin. Yeah, I think that really reinforces kind of the number of doors that are open for you, not just currently, but that could open in the future as well. I guess following up on this conversation, if someone is questioning whether or not they're ready to apply for licensure, what would you recommend? At what point do you think they'd be ready to do so?
Is it someone like yourself after graduation or nearing graduation?
Yeah, maybe they've been working for the past few years or beginning their career journey. At what point or what is a signal that they might be ready to begin discussing licensure and preparing for this process?
Yes, I have a different angle on this that maybe not everybody is aware of. I believe you should look into your future profession starting from the internship choices you are making. I say that because in our provinces, I know for sure of 3 of them, BC, Alberta, and Ontario, you can use up of 1 year of internship towards your experience when you apply for the professional engineering. We do this as a priority at Whitewater when we bring in interns, and we have them work side by side with us in real life projects. That also we make sure each one of them is working under the supervision of at least one licensed engineer. That means that the work they do as early as interns is important. So my suggestion is for those that are still in school right now and can do something like this, look for employers that support internship this way to do so.
Yes, I think that's a great point. And for me, especially as I kind of enter my job search right now, it's certainly something that I've been looking for and asking potential employers about as well. So good to keep top of mind again.
Thank you.
And if I can add to that, a lot of the associations, if not all the associations, have a questionnaire on their website. So if you do have, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years of experience, just go onto your association's website. There should be a link to start the application or fill out a questionnaire. It'll ask you a series of questions, and it usually tells you if you're eligible to apply for a particular license and which license is available to you. So this is a great way of them letting you know if you're ready or not, so that you don't waste time or you're not sitting in the system waiting to accumulate a bunch of years.
Okay, I can also add to that. Also, students can look for opportunities that provide exposure to real engineering work. Mentorship from P.Eng professionals, and also support for licensure, such as covering the application fee, providing time for the exam, also mentoring mentorship. So that's very critical also.
Yeah, thank you guys. a great list of things to look out for and some awesome resources that I think will definitely be valuable for those who are early in the career. So for me, yeah, as I'm nearing graduation, I'm thinking a lot about entering the job market. And I know that there may be students in the audience who are in the same position. So can somebody's first job choice accelerate or maybe delay their journey to licensure? And are there other things that we should maybe be looking for coming into the job market to make the right decision to set us up on the right path towards getting our P.Eng?
I can take this one. I think the first job is definitely very important. There are many small to medium-sized companies out there that require professionals now. In the same time, a number of them can't really afford to pay a professional, but they are willing to do so. You can look into that. Some others are completely against bringing in future professionals. So I would say research the employers you would like to work for, and the best you can select the ones that are supportive of obtaining your license.
Great. Yes, that's definitely something to be on the lookout for, and especially to mention in the interview process as I get started in this. I think I'm convinced, and this is really helping me or pushing me in the direction of maybe getting my P.Eng someday. I was wondering if you guys could break down some of the components of the application process for me.
Sure. Maybe I can just go back to the last question, just about is your first job going to set yourself up for success or not? Many of the associations have an EIT program, or an MIT program is called in some provinces. And in addition to paying a yearly fee and getting some networking benefits, you can usually submit your work experience for that year that you've done in the past 12 months, and then somebody will review it and then let you know if you're on track or not. So this is a good way to prevent people from earning 4 years in the wrong industry, or with a wrong employer, or under the wrong supervisor who's not a licensed member, and then realize, okay, I just wasted 4 years and I'm going to have to backtrack. So if whatever province you're in, if you're looking to if there's an EIT or MIT program available, I would encourage you to sign up for that. If there's the ability to submit your experience every 12 months and get feedback on that, because it just prevents surprises at the 48-month mark. And then I think you had another question.
Yeah. So with that, kind of as maybe a step for preparation for the licensure process, would you guys be able to give me some insight as to different steps in the application process and kind of the individual components that you'll need to prepare in order to receive your license or complete your application?
Sure,
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead, Gavin.
Oh, thanks. So I'll talk about the kind of the 4 main steps, and then I'll let Eugene sort of fill in the holes that I missed. So the first step is starting your application. It's submitting your transcripts. You're paying your initial fees, submitting references and your work history. And then if you're internationally educated, typically you'll be assigned technical exams to bridge gaps between your degree and a Canadian equivalent. And then after that, you typically write the NPPE, which is the Law and Ethics exam. And it's a 2.5-hour exam, 110 questions, and multiple choice. And then after that step, you submit your work experience, which is the competency-based assessment licensing step. And that's roughly 30 work examples that demonstrate that you're at a professional level. And then once that's been approved, the office team at your association will recommend your application for a license with the board, and the board sits every month, and then they'll review it, and they usually approve it. And that's the process in a nutshell.
I just wanted to add to what Gavin said, two things. If you have an international degree and you come from a country that doesn't speak English as the first language, I believe you should look into obtaining an equivalent in speaking English, and that can be done at colleges and universities. That's very helpful, and it is part of the process now. It has been um, loosened up a bit. It was a little bit more stricter before. The other thing is about your validators that are going to validate the work you claim that you've done. And those validators will also present your good character. So that means you need their help and also their support to show that you are going to be professional that is not only very good from a technical point of view, but also has a very good character.
Great. I think those are great outlines to the steps that are coming up for myself and I'm sure many others entering. Aderonke, did you have anything to add based off of your experience?
Yes, for those that are ready to start, I recommend them to contact their provincial regulators. Yes, even registering as an engineer in training and beginning to document their work experience. This will help them to, and it also help them to seek mentorship from licensed engineers. So don't be shy to ask for help. Sometimes you may just need a little push. So go ahead and speak to someone, ask for help. And you can also find a lot of resources through this pathway to engineering. So please don't forget to ask for help if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you all. It's been very insightful. I think too, what comes to mind is where to start. So do you have any advice or pointers on what is a good first step for somebody, a new grad perhaps, who is kind of ready to look into licensure? Is there something that you can start on day one, or yeah, where can we begin?
I can start here and continue what Aderonke just mentioned. Go and meet the provincial regulator. They are the best place to start. There are lots of very good programs for young upcoming professionals. Once you get in touch with a provincial regulator, here in BC is EGBC. There are programs. We are here available as mentors. We will help you along the way. Thank you.
Yeah, I think something that was mentioned previously is that some people wait 4 years to write their work experience and then they forget all the details about it, all the projects that they've worked on, all the sticky situations that they've, resolved, all the alternatives that they've considered as they're making these decisions. So it's important to keep a good logbook of all these different projects, especially when it's something unique and is not, a routine sort of standard solution that you're solving. And that's going to make the work experience section of the application a lot easier.
Great, thank you. It's good to have kind of those tips and tricks, especially starting out in this process. So I appreciate all of the insight and experience you guys have brought today. I think now we're prepped to go over to the Q&A section. So the first question that we have here is, for someone who has already completed the academic requirements and passed the NPPE, but then needs to strengthen specific competencies, what are some practical pathways you'd recommend for them to gain that validated engineering experience?
I believe an important aspect is to select your validators properly. You need 4 validators, out of which minimum 2 have to be professional engineers. And the validators should be professionals that have been working with you in different projects. Choose them wisely, because they can be a huge benefit to you. I've seen competencies written in 2-3 sentences. Those are on a very weak side. And if you don't have the right validator to guide you to actually contribute to those competencies, it could delay your entire process.
Great, thank you, Eugen. Our next question is, what is the total cost of getting licensed, and is it worth it?
So I can take this one. So we looked at the cost for our clients, and there's typically 2 scenarios. There's clients that have to write technical exams, and then there's clients who don't have to write technical exams. So the applicants who don't have to write technical exams, which are typically Canadian educated folks, they spend about $2,000 on the licensing process. That's just for fees and textbooks and registration and your stamp and stuff like that. And then there's internationally educated applicants who have to write technical exams typically, and they spend closer to $6,000, and that is just because of the extra exam settings for the technical exams, buying those textbooks for 4 topics, and different things like that. So we see it fall in between $2,000 to $6,000, and is it worth it? As I think we talked about this before, different studies, independent studies have looked at the benefits, whether it's a 7 to 14% improvement in pay or $5,000 more per year versus someone who's doing the same role but who's unlicensed.
Awesome, thanks, Gavin. The next question is related to experience required in the licensure process. So it's asked, is it required that you have experience from several companies, or can you complete your experience with just one company throughout your journey?
I can take the first stab at this. It doesn't matter if you are in a good position with one company that has a larger engineering department with drafters, designers, professional engineers. That's a perfect place. Use the entire experience from that place of employment. If you move around from one company to the other, which is also possible, that works too. The only thing I'm suggesting here is please keep track of who you work with, maintain contact with them. When you will need to write your competencies, you might want to pick as your validator one engineer from a different company, worked a couple of years prior or something like that. That happened to me, and it's very important to maintain those connections.
Great, thank you for the answer there. Next, there is a question about selecting an employer and their supports during the P.Eng licensure process. So they ask, how should I approach employers to explain that they want to work there while also pursuing licensure? And if experience is validated by a P.Eng outside of this company, how likely is it that the employer would accept this arrangement and support them on this process?
I can handle the one about the external validators. So most associations are looking for validators who are intimately familiar with your work and who are licensed at the time of that project happening. So you can't just have the work 5 years ago and then use a P.Eng who was licensed yesterday. So as long as you meet those 2 criteria, it doesn't have to be someone at the firm doesn't have to be your manager. It could be a client. It could be a partnering consultant. It could be a supplier who's a P.Eng. Those are kind of the main requirements that we see in most locations across Canada. And then for international experience, most associations are okay with the P.Eng equivalent in that country. So if it's in the United States, it would be a PE. If it was in the UK, it would be a C.Eng, I think. So I think that was part 2 of the question. And maybe if you wanted to restate part number 1, I'll let Aderonke or Eugene handle that one.
Yeah, the beginning of the question was how to approach employers and explain that they want to pursue their professional engineering license while working for that employer.
Aderonke, you want to start first?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Because,
please.
yeah, so you don't necessarily have to take permission from your employer to start your P.Eng. You have to, because it's a requirement for you as an engineer. So you start documenting your experience by yourself, and they don't mind whoever is going to validate you. They don't mind, because along the way they provide support. I can remember vividly when I was with my employer. They gave me some time off to go read for my exams, and they also paid for the deal. So at the right time, when you do your own part, they have support they'll provide to you as an employer. They pay your dues, they give you some times off to go read your book. So there's always support along the way. And they don't, like an internationally trained engineer. I worked with, for about 17 years of experience in the power sector, I work with only one utility. So I documented all my experience, all my competency assessment was practically based from that company. So I had and the only thing you require as an international trained engineer is that your regulators want to see that the people validating you, they have such experiences. So sometimes they require you to submit their resume for them to be able to see, oh, what's their experience like? Are they licensed? Where have they worked over the years? So they support you. They support just for you to ask. Just ask questions. They support along the way.
Great. Yeah, I think it's good to know some of the supports that you are able to ask for that you can expect going into a specific role as well. So thank you for that.
So I just wanted to add an example. One of my mentees from about a couple of years ago went and asked his current employer at the time if they would be supportive of him starting the process, and unfortunately they weren't. So he had to look into a different direction and had to change employer. I just wanted to bring this example because it could happen to you. If it happens, it happens. Take it as it is, as a learning experience. No, it's possible the employer not to be helpful, wishing to help you. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can sort of piggyback on that. So we see clients sometimes who submit their list of validators and then they just get ghosted from their, like there's a validator that it's usually a past company that they left for, that they left. So it's not their current employer. And for some reason, the past employer is upset that they left, or there's some other sort of underlying reason, but they just don't want to fill it out as a way to get back at them, I guess. So, but your association's understanding, you can just swap out that validator for another validator, but sometimes it's a bit challenging, especially if you worked at a company and you were really only close with one professional there. So my advice is just wherever you are, make sure you have several P.Eng people that you can rely on as a validator, because if you switch companies and that one person is mad that you left the company, then you can use someone else, hopefully, and you'll have a backup plan.
Great. Thank you, Gavin. Yeah, that's good to keep in mind and make sure that you keep those connections and stay in touch throughout your journey as well. The next question we have is it possible to start the application with foreign work experience?
Yes, as far as I know, yes, you can. Not a problem. And then you are going to build up your Canadian experience as you move along. Yes.
Yeah, and to add to that, so the associations, most of them have softened the requirement for Canadian experience. So you don't need any Canadian experience in a lot of regions, as long as for key competencies, you can show that your international experience is equivalent to what we do here in Canada, whether it's similar codes, similar practices, similar standards, and stuff like that. The exception is Alberta. They do it a little bit differently. So if you don't have any Canadian experience, they let you get a provisional license. And then once you've come to Canada and you gain your 1 year of experience, you resubmit your competencies, then you can upgrade that to a P.Eng.
Great, thank you. There's a second part to this question as well, asking about the status of the EIT pathway in Ontario. So is anybody able to perhaps comment on that or give some insight on how that program has kind of evolved in the past few years?
From what I've researched recently, the EIT program is back in Ontario, from what I understand, but it's not in the same form as what it used to be. So whether or not they're reviewing yearly 12 months of experience, I'm not clear on that part. But I'm sure it's on PEO's website, the specific details about what the program offers and the benefits of that.
Thanks, Gavin. Another question here asks, does the NPPE exam expire? This person has written it in the past, but with a different regulator.
Typically, it doesn't expire, but if your file gets closed down at the other regulator, then you might have trouble retrieving your NPPE results to the new regulator. So it's best that you just have the two regulators talk, and hopefully they can dig up an old file and give you credit for that, as opposed to you having to pay the fees and study again.
Awesome. That's good to know it transfers over. All right. Another question here asks, this person has 3 years of experience working outside of Canada, and how is international work experience evaluated when pursuing licensure?
I can take that. So even with 3 years work experience, in as much from that 3 years, you can demonstrate in each competency that you've mastered that. So you're going to document it by yourself. Each competency is being specified. You have to look at, oh, what have I done in this line? And you're going to write it and submit it. Your validators will also validate that, oh, she's competent or he is competent for that kind of role. And when that is done, your assessors, they will also assess if that is acceptable. And also you must be, as you know, as internationally trained engineer, you must be able to search up for the code that also just in line with what is acceptable in Canada. So if you're specifying IEE, you must be able to ensure that, oh, there is CEC that correspond to that. So you must be able to match the standard, the code, such that when the assessor is looking at your record, you'll be able to reconcile it accordingly. So you have to pull in a good work and show that, yes, you're competent in that area. So your 3 years of experience doesn't matter, in as much you can demonstrate that you have that competency.
Great, thank you for sharing. And one more question here. So when applying with international experience, how should applicants demonstrate their competency in Canadian specific engineering standards, such as regional building codes, local safety regulations, and how can they reflect this in their experience record if it's required?
As I've said earlier, you have to do a lot of research by yourself. Which code from your international code, as in totally aligned with Canadian code, is very important. So you can't just do a shabby work because you have to demonstrate this. So you have to read through Canadian code, the building code, the standard, and see from your country what exactly look like this, because I was there, because I'm originally from Nigeria and my experience is from Nigeria. So I was able to write my competency to show that, oh, this standard is applied in this, when you're replacing a bushing. So I specify the standard we use in doing that. And you have to look for the same thing that applies to Canada. You understand? These are it reflects in Canada. So you must properly document this experience. Else, the assessor, they will not be able to assess that you have that kind of competency. So you have a lot of work to do. So you have to sit down, take your time, and document properly your experiences, and so that you'll be able to be approved accordingly.
Yeah, if I can just add to that. So it depends on the province, but there's 6 to 8 Canadian equivalent competencies. So if we look at 1.1, which is provide an example where you had to use codes and standards to solve an engineering problem. If you don't, because that's a Canadian environment competency, if you have experience in Canada, you would want to use that first. But if that's not the case, you haven't applied any codes in Canada, or you're not in Canada yet, then you want to use your best example that would be similar to a Canadian environment. So similar codes, standards, regulations, laws, process, procedures, that kind of thing. And if you don't have that, then you want to take a few sentences in the action section of your competency example and explain how you would do things differently if the project were in Canada. So in Nigeria, I did A, B, and C, but because I know that's different than the way that they do it in BC, where I'm applying, I would have used this local code, and I would have used this material because it's going to stand up to the winters better and that type of thing. So you want to show them that you've done the research and you know what how the engineering process changes from country to country. And I think if you can do that for the 6 or 8 engineering, like Canadian engineering equivalent examples, then you should be in good shape.
And also, it's worth to mention that even though you do all this, understand, the regulators can still come back to you and say, no, we're not still accepting this. So you may be offered to rewrite it or to go for a seminar, like in P.Eng in Newfoundland. So you'll be assigned some seminars, which shows that your regulators support you. So you go through the seminars, and after that, they will approve that competency for you. So you're not alone. You will be guided accordingly.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And it's good to know how, or what it looks like, rather, to make those connections and be able to kind of explain your experience and vouch for yourself in that process as well. That was all the questions that we have for today through the Q&A. So to wrap up just quickly, if each of you would like to share one thing to leave with the audience, a piece of advice, a tip, or a lesson from your experience relating to engineering licensure, that would be great.
Sure, I can go first. I think I want to leave everyone with, it's not about your experience or your association or how well you write exams. It's about hesitation. So those who make a daily effort and commit to getting through the process usually do, and those who worry about the process or worry about their experience or what their association is going to think are the ones that get stuck. So just commit to it like a 3-6 month project, and put in 1 hour a day, and you should see some significant results.
Okay. Also for me, if there's one thing I would like you to take away today, it is that licensure is more than a title. It's a commitment to professionalism and public safety and continuous growth. So if you're unsure where to start, just take that first step. As you've earlier said, reach out to your regulators, connect with mentors, begin document your experience. There is support along the way, including mentorship, like through this program, Pathway to Engineering. I will always say that opportunity means preparation. So, and I've experienced this. So if licensure is not required today, don't worry. Pursue it, position you for opportunity when it comes. It's not just a nice to have, it's a career enabler. It's going to open doors for you. It's going to build your credibility and also position you to make a meaningful impact as an engineer.
Yeah, I want to add to what Gavin and Aderonke just said. You have to be committed once you start this process. Also, you need support, and especially if you're have an international degree, you're coming here probably at a different age than a new graduate. Then the support needs to come from your family first and foremost. After that, go and seek support in the community. It's out there. It's miles better than it used to be in the mid-90s, early 2000s. There are people there ready to help. Also, during the process, you might encounter struggles, challenges. Maybe a validator would refuse to vouch for you, or maybe one of the steps takes a little bit longer. Don't despair. Keep on going forward and watch the finish line.
Great. Thank you guys all for your insight today and for taking the time to share your experience with those attending. I'm going to hand it back now to Philip from Engineers Canada for a few closing remarks. But thank you everyone for joining.
Before we wrap up today, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Emma, Aderonke, Eugen, and Gavin for sharing your real experiences and honest perspectives today. And thank you to everyone who joined us. It's been a great conversation. If there's one big takeaway from today, it's that engineering licensure really matters. It's about competence, accountability, and ethics, but it's also about your future. Earning your P.Eng isn't just a legal requirement. It's a major career advantage that helps you stand out and opens lots of doors as your career takes off. At Engineers Canada, we want to make this journey as clear and as accessible as possible for you. That's exactly why we created Pathway to Engineering program. If you haven't already done so, check out pathwaytoengineering.ca. It's packed with practical tools, straight up guidance, and resources to help you understand licensure and what it means to your career. While you're there, I encourage you to sign up for Pathway email list so that you don't miss out on what's coming next. This fall, for example, we're running a couple of Licensure 101 webinars, and registration is already open. I do encourage you to register. And don't forget, you can always reach out directly to engineering regulator in your province or territory. They always have a lot of advice and resources to support you as you move towards your P.Eng. So once again, thank you all for being part of today. Thanks to Emma for guiding the discussion, and thanks to the rest of the panel for sharing your experiences so openly. We're excited to support you as you take this next step in engineering. Thank you again.